Hi, everybody. I wanted to run through with you the lawn performance incentives today and what these numbers mean. So if we get started, we wanted to put in a bonus implementation for our field manager and crew chiefs to ensure that we're operating at maximum efficiency at all times while mowing lawns, while continuing to fill to the high quality expectations that our clients expect. The bonus structure is going to be linked as well to the job description, which I will outline shortly. So that means that if policies and procedures are not followed on a weekly basis, so you are not wearing uniform, you are not following LMN, you are not clocking into Time Express, deductions may apply upwards of $100 off the end of season bonus depending on infraction. So you'll be measured on two numbers, production targets and efficiency targets, both of which Lisa has shared over this week as per how this week is going. So what are performance metrics? So the two performance metrics that we'll be looking at are production targets. So what is a production target? So that's the goal is that an employee is expected to achieve a minimum of 85% production against total payroll hours throughout the grass cutting season. So that's roughly about 24 weeks of cutting. So if an employee does not reach that 85% production by the end of the grass cutting season, so we look at the total number for every single week and we average it out, then they'd be disqualified from receiving their bonus, even if they're beating their estimated targets. Because what that's telling us is that maybe the employee is cutting grass really, really fast and meeting the targets, but then they're driving for an absurd amount of time and payroll hours are still out of control. So that's the first part of the bonus. The second part are efficiency targets. So employees will be evaluated based on their ability to beat their estimated man hours, which is pretty self-explanatory. So on your work order, you're given all of your cuts and you're given what they're quoted at. So the goal is to basically beat your estimated man hours, and we look at both estimated and actual on a daily basis. At the end of the grass cutting season, if the crew has globally beaten their estimated target, so that means that either your number is in the negative for efficiency or it's at zero. So zero means that it's an actual. You'll be rewarded 50% of your total at a rate of $70. So that means that if you're beating your targets, so you're doing less than zero, the number is in the negative, you would get a bonus based on that number. And I'll show you the math shortly. So production targets, how does that work? So let's say you have crew A, and then on a 5-day work week, crew A works 150 man hours on average. So weekly, they're doing about 150 man hours. Out of those 150 man hours, 30 of them are clocked into lawn mowing, with 20 of them clocked into drive time. So if you're looking at production there, 130 man hours are productive hours, and 20 of those man hours are not productive. You're driving. So if you take the math there, 30 man hours divided by a total of 50, you're left with 87%. So if someone has a target of 87%, then, turn my flock off, then you would be meeting your bonus. If, for example, you have 115 man hours, but the total man hours that you're doing is 150, then you would be at 76%. So you do not meet your criteria for your bonus. So important to note that some days and some days and some runs, you might have more driving than others, but globally, the routes are built very dense and they're built to attain an 85% production within a week. Efficiency targets. So how does efficiency work? That's the second caveat. So efficiency would mean that you're beating your estimated man hours. So let's say crew A cuts 120 homes with an estimated budget of 85 man hours, but they're cutting these homes in 98 man hours. So that means they've exceeded their budget by 13 man hours. So that's 15% higher than what we estimated. So that would mean the crew is not meeting the criteria for the bonus. Let's put that into practice. So let's say, for example, you have 100 budgeted man hours and you do this in 80. That means you went 20% under budget. So that's great. You saved 20%. You beat everything by 20%. But let's say you had these 100 budgeted man hours, but you did that in 120 man hours. So for example, at the beginning of the season, grass is longer, it's taking longer to cut. If you're looking at that, then you'd went over budget by 20% if you were to cut 100 man hours in 120. Again, same kind of principle. There are some properties that may be poorly quoted that you might be frustrated and say, well, I can never beat these man hours because the quote is not good. However, if we look at historical data, because we analyze this on a yearly basis when our renewals go out, as a whole, our properties are quoted to beat targets. So you can't just look at one property and consider him a loss leader or a loser there. You've got to look at all of them together and know that they are quoted with a sustainable goal of being able to beat your targets. So let's put a few examples in practice. So let's say we're looking at Crew C here, and we're looking at data from the start of the cutting season up until the beginning of July. So this is not full season data. So here, the first column would be the number of houses cut. So here, on average, this crew is cutting 129 homes in a week. Their estimated man hours on average. So on average, they have about 81 man hours of cutting estimated. And they are actually doing it in 79 man hours. So they're actually beating what's estimated. The total payroll hours is 100. So if we look at percentage billable, which is your production targets, they're at 79%. What does that mean? That means 79 man hours on average are spent cutting, with 100 in total going to payroll. So that's 79% of their time they're productive. If we go look at the production targets, you see here they're at -2%. Why? Because they're quoted, or it's estimated, that they are going to do 81 man hours, but in essence, they're actually doing 79, so they're beating their targets by 2%. That's good. However, as a whole, this employee would not be eligible for the bonus because they're not meeting criteria 1. So although they're doing a good job in beating their estimated versus actual, well, they're spending too much time in drive time, and they're not at their 85% production. Let's look at another example here. Crew A. Crew A is doing roughly 123 houses a week. Their estimated man hours on their work orders per week is roughly 86%, and they're 86 man hours. They're doing it in about 105 man hours, and their total man hours spent on a weekly basis is roughly 123. So the math on that is showing you that they're 85% at their production. So what does that mean? That means 105 man hours are spent cutting. 123 is total payroll hours BLC pays out. So the math on that is 85% of their time is spent cutting. Boom, they meet their target. That's great. However, if you look at the percentage estimated versus actual, they have a budget of 86. They're doing it at 105. So they're not meeting their goal. So here they're not eligible for the bonus because they're not meeting criteria 2. Their efficiency target is not a negative number. Next example in practice, Crew E. So Crew E does an average of 123 houses in a week. Estimated man hours he's allotted or she's allotted is 86. They're doing it in 83. Total man hours on the schedule they're doing through payroll is 98 on average. What does that mean? Well, their percentage billable, so their production is at 85%. Excellent. They've met criteria 1. Why? Because 83% on average is production, 98 is total payroll hours. In total, 85%. 83 and 98 are the two you're comparing there. And then your percentage target is in the negative. Why? Because they have 86 man hours of lawns to cut, and they're doing it in 83. So they're doing it in less hours, so they've beat their target. So they're eligible for the bonus because they're meeting criteria 1 and 2. All right, so now let's look at what the bonus calculation looks like. So what you need to do is, this only can be done at the end of this season because you need to take all the data from the crew, because as crew chiefs know very well, in the month of May, grass is growing like crazy, and beating your targets a little bit harder, as well as you're getting used to your run, you're driving a little bit more. Those numbers look very different when you're talking August and September, where things slow down, you're used to your run, you're driving less, you know your properties, you're efficient. So you have to really look at this at the end of the season. But how we are going to look at it is we're going to tally up your total man hours estimated every single week from May until October, and the same thing for actual. So I only looked at this obviously for July because this is the only data I had, but when I tallied up May until July, I had estimated man hours for cutting at 772, and this crew, the one who met both the criteria, actually cut in 749. So the difference between 772 and 749 is 23 man hours. So they were 23 man hours under target. So what does the bonus look like? Well, 23 divided by 2. So 50% of this target goes to the crew chief. So that's 11 and a half man hours. So if you multiply that by 70, you're looking at a bonus of $805. And that's only as of July 3rd. So you can only imagine if this crew continues to perform the way that they're doing, and hopefully this incentivizes them even more to push and get their numbers down, this number is only going to grow by the end of the season. Lastly, another example where a crew would have not met either target would be in this case here, crew H, averaging about 94 homes in a week. They have 70 man hours of cutting to do, but they're doing it in 81, so they're spending 11 man hours more than they should, and their total man hours is 108, but they're using 81 as production time, so 81 divided by 108, that's 75% production time. So they're basically in drive time for 25% of their day, which isn't enough, which is too much. And then lastly, their percentage target is so high, it's in the positive because they're cutting grass much longer, it's taking much longer to cut grass. So that's in just the bonus structure. Now the bonus is conditional on following the terms of the job description. So what are the terms of the job description for a lawn care crew chief? Well, the following responsibilities would be team leadership and management, making sure that their field members are trained, that tasks are delegated and they're disciplining as required, that they're using Element accurately and consistently. For field production, it's meeting that 85% productivity target and completing the list within or under estimated budget. So that is the goal, right? This is the point of this bonus structure. And customer service is to serve as the first point of contact between the client, the crew, and the office, and ensuring that all interactions are professional within the client and complaints are diffused. So the daily non-negotiables that we talk about, so we're arriving to work on time daily, 0 missed days outside of allotted sick days or approved time off, reporting to work in clean, presentable DLC field uniform, so that the field uniform, not the snow swag that we've given out throughout the years, wearing appropriate protective equipment on the eyes and ears as well as on the feet, use of Timex to punch in and out, pick up and return your daily crew binders with the paperwork inside, conducting your daily circle checks and your trailer and tool inspections both at the start of each shift and at the end, 0 return trips for tools and supplies and fuel, that Element timesheets are submitted daily with very minimal errors in tasks, and that timesheets are done live. No deviation from the assigned route, so no Tim Hortons, McDonald's, etc. Ensure you're packing your lunch and your supplies. When reversing a DLC vehicle, your passenger must guide or spot you with or without a trailer, following the proper break schedule. Emptying your truck, trailer, and debris every day, reporting out broken equipment using the do not operate tags, and ensuring your lead hand and laborers are following the guidelines of their job descriptions as well. So that is the gist of the bonus. I think it can work quite well for everybody. And now that we're starting to send these stats out daily, you guys are seeing how you're doing on a daily basis and what that looks like. So I'm hoping that this will work, and I'm hoping to be able to, at the end of the season, pay out some hardworking crews for the work that they do on a daily basis. Thank you.